Hey everyone, it's Stratus here, and I got another Call of Duty World War II weapon history video for you today. And today it is the Type 100 submachine gun, so be sure to stay tuned to check it out. So the Type 100 submachine gun was a Japanese submachine gun used during World War II, and the only submachine gun produced by Japan in any quantity. It was also made in two basic variants referred to by the American British observers as the Type 100-40 and the Type 100-44, the latter also known as the Type 100, simplified. A third variant was a folding version of the early model, sometimes referred to as the Type 100 Navy, made for parachutists. So the Type 100, again, is a submachine gun made by Japan. It was in service from 1942 to 1954. This gun was used in the Second Sino-Japanese War, the Second World War, the Indonesian National Revolution, the First Indochina War, the Korean War, the Malayan Emergency, and the Vietnam War, and it was used limited in both the Korean and Vietnam War. The numbers of units built was estimated to be 24,000 to 27,000. So the weight for this gun, which in our case is the 1942, was 3.8 kilograms or 8.4 pounds empty. And fully loaded, it would be about 10.6 pounds or 4.8 kilograms. The cartridge that fired was 8 by 22 millimeter Nambu. The caliber was 8 millimeter. The action was blowback, so that's a little bit different from the other submachine guns that we've seen so far, like the grease gun and PPSH. The rate of fire was 450 rounds per minute for the 1942, which was our model, because our model shoots a little bit slower, and 800 rounds per minute for the 1944. The muzzle velocity was 335 meters per second, so this is about as slow as some of the other submachine guns. The effective range was 100 to 150 meters, and the feed system was a 30-round detachable curved box magazine. Designed and built by the Nambu Arms Manufacturing Company under a low-priority military contract, the Type 100 was a submachine gun that was first delivered to the Imperial Army in 1942. Japan was surprisingly late to introduce the submachine gun to its armed forces. A few models of the SIG Bergmann 1920, a licensed version of the German MP-18, were purchased from Switzerland in the 1920s. These were examined and copied with significant changes. In 1942, the Type 100 SMG was delivered for service, used by Japanese Marines during the invasion of southern China. The Type 100 was typical of the class of simple and expensive wartime submachine guns produced by all military powers, designed for maximum ease of production. It is based on a simplified Bergmann MP-18 modified for the 8mm Nambu round. Its complex ammunition feed included a feature whereby the firing pin would not operate until the round was fully chambered. Frequent stoppages in firing were experienced in the field. The round was the underpowered and relatively ineffective 8 by 22 millimeter Nambu pistol round with curved box magazine extended from the left side, which made for a poor weapon balance when full. The sights were canted to the left. So the sights were canted to the left to compensate for the gun being a little bit off balance. And I think that's very interesting that it says the round was underpowered and relatively ineffective because it was a very weak pistol round. I find that very interesting because in the game, the Type 100 is actually pretty good at long range. But whatever, I guess I didn't make it all that historically accurate. So the versions. Two basic performance variants of the Type 100 were produced during the course of the war. The Type 140 was an early version with a bipod and heavy bayonet lug, judged unsatisfactory because of the frequent jamming of the feed mechanism, and the Type 144 was a simplified 1944 version that had a higher rate of fire and much greater reliability. A third variant was a lightened version of the early Type 140 design, which was delivered with a folding stock for Navy paratroopers. The Type 140 was complex, designed with little consideration for mass production. Its sights and feed mechanism were overly complicated. Its fire rate was some 350 to 450 rounds per minute, and it jammed frequently. The 8 by 22 millimeter Nambu pistol cartridge it fired was rather underpowered compared to the contemporary military pistol cartridges, such as the 9mm Parabellum and the 45 ACP. In practice, the bayonet was not widely used. Some 10,000 were produced by the Kokura Arsenal for the Imperial Japanese Army. A folding version of this model was made for paratroopers, designed with the folding stock for the lighter weight. The reliability was not improved, and the folding stock proved less suited to close combat than the solid stock, which stood up better in a butt stroke. Some 6,000 to 7,500 were made at Nagoya Arsenal and delivered primarily to the Imperial Japanese Navy for its Marine paratroopers, but also to Army paratroopers, who used them in February 1942 during the Battle of Palembang on raids against oil fields. Navy paratroopers used the weapon in the first months of the 1942 battle during the Battle of Manado and the Battle of Timor. The late war variant, Type 144, the simplified model, was designed in answer to suggestions coming from field units and to hasten production at a time when Japan was being pushed into retreat across the Pacific theater of operations. Demand for submachine guns was at an all-time high. The 1944 variant was slightly longer, with simple iron sights and a greatly simplified muzzle brake consisting of 2 ports drilled into the barrel. The bipod and the large bayonet mounting bar were eliminated, with the bayonet fitted to the barrel instead. Consequently, the muzzle protruded more from its perforated jacket. Corners were cut in production, leaving many Type 100s with roughly finished stocks and poorly welded parts. The relatively weak 8mm round remained the same, but the rate of fire was significantly increased to 800 rounds per minute. The resulting Type 144 was quite light, with low recoil, and demonstrated good reliability and satisfactory accuracy for close-range work. Some 8,000 units were made by the Nagoya Arsenal. Despite these simplifications, Japan lacked the industrial infrastructure to produce the suitable quantities of the Type 100. By 1945, only 24,000 to 27,000 had been built. While the Type 100 proved to be an effective and reliable weapon in close-quarters fighting, perceived lack of requirement for SMGs in Japan's poor industrial capacity meant that only 27,000 were ever produced. As a result of this, when the weapon was issued to regular combat units, only officers and some NCOs received it. The Type 100 was never a common battlefield weapon. Some units are known to have been prioritized for reception of the weapon due to the nature of their operations. However, some American service personnel did report encountering the weapon in the Pacific Islands late in the war. Additionally, no Japanese soldier was ever equipped with the weapon until late 1941, and was not produced in any significant quantity until 1943, a point at which the manufacturing quality of Japanese weapons had already begun to deteriorate. This weapon was used by Afghanistan, the Republic of China, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, North Korea, South Korea, Vietnam, and Thailand. So now we've gone over the weapon history for this because it was a little bit shorter than some of the other guns. Let's talk about some of the best attachments for this gun to make it as best as possible. Since you are likely running airborne for this gun, you're likely only going to have 2 attachments. Now this gun for me seemed to be a very well balanced gun. It was good overall. It didn't have a lot of recoil, had a good range, it had a decent fire rate and everything like that. So the biggest thing that I would recommend putting on this gun is extended mags. That way you're bumping it up to 45 rounds per magazine instead of just 30. That way you're not having to reload quite as often, and you can get those double, triple, and sometimes fury kills. And then just for the added benefit, because this gun does have a little bit longer range, I would put on the foregrip. Just that way you can keep your sights on target a little bit better. But some people would opt for steady aim for close range encounters, and then some people might not like the sight, so they'll go with a reflex sight or a lens sight. I don't necessarily think that rapid fire is necessary for this gun, because you can usually kill somebody in 3 to 4 bullets with this submachine gun. So again, my recommended attachments for this gun will be the extended mags and the foregrip. And that's everything about the Type 100 submachine gun. If you have enjoyed this video, please be sure to drop a like down below for me. Also be sure to comment what you think about the gun and also which attachments you prefer to use on there. And if you don't mind, please subscribe and hit that bell icon so we can get notifications when I come out with more Call of Duty World War II weapon histories for you. I hope that you'll have a great day, and I'll see y'all next time.